Hey, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm making a card. I did make 3 cards, but I only filmed the one. I'm using mostly Concord and 9th cardstock, and I'm using the Spellbinders Colorful Expression Blooms die set. This is the August 2024 die set, large die of the month. And it's beautiful. They have some great inspiration here. For my inspiration, I had purchased the Sarah Renee Clark color cubes. This is from volume 1. I got both color cubes, the volume 1 and 2. They've got great inspiration like this. I would never use these colors, but I think I'm going to try something with this. These are really great to have. So I use that as my inspiration, and I love Concord and 9th papers so much. So what I did is, let me grab the ones. These were my, let me move this out of the way. These were my color inspirations. So I chose these 2. Then I just pulled out my Concord and 9th. These are my Concord and 9th samples. And then I just kind of hold them up to my color inspiration just to kind of find what I wanted. Now, I didn't find all the colors that I wanted from the Concord and 9th, so I pulled from my stash as well. But like this one, I'm using I'm using powder for that blue right there. So I just kind of went through them, decided which ones I liked, and if I couldn't find a match, I pulled from my personal stash. So this one, I just liked the color, so I didn't use inspiration for that one. But for this one here, I used this inspiration. So this blue, both of these blues and the silver is from my personal cardstock. Then the Concord and 9th, this is Spice Cider, the black, and Nutmeg for the card base. I used some silver glitter paper here, and this Thanks Die and Shadow. I believe that's a honeybee die set. And then I used the Spice Cider for these pieces as well, these leafy pieces. I added some gems. And I did pop most of that out. So this gave me a great, I would not normally do a brown card base, I don't know why, but I love the brown and the blue. So this was a great starting point. And then this one here was my inspiration. So from this one, this blue is from my cardstock, and the silver is from my stash as well. The rest is Concord and 9, so I have powder and Stardust here. I also use some glitter hearts, some glitter on the hello. I believe this is also a honeybee. And behind the black cardstock, which I did use Concord and 9's black, I added 2 pieces of chipboard just to give this dimension. And I added this on a powder card base. This is a 5x7. This one here is a standard A2. Actually, this one's 5.5 by 4.5, so it's a little bit wider than a standard A2. And then this one here is 4 3/4 square. And I did stamp something on the inside of each one. This one's stamped with Stardust by Concord and 9th. It says, "Have a happy day." This one, I added the same blue from the flower to tie it in, and it says, "Thanks." The sub-sentiment is "so very much." And then this one here says hello. This one opens sideways and it says, "I've been thinking about you." I added some of the flowers from the die and some glitter hearts, silver glitter hearts. This one also has a little bit of dimension on it. I popped up some of the leaves and added some pearls. So let's go ahead and get started on this card and how easy this came together. So as I mentioned previously, I like to pull out my Concord and 9th. That's my favorite cardstock to use, so I pull that out first. go from my little samples and try and match up the colors. If I don't have the colors in my Concord and Ninth, then I just pull from my stash and use other colors that go well together. So originally I also pulled out wheat for that light brown and nutmeg for the dark brown, but with this card I end up not using the wheat or the nutmeg. And I think it still turned out pretty. I still like the other color combination. So as I showed previously, this is the August 2022 Large Die of the Month Club Kit from Spellbinders. And I just started to pull out some cardstock. I do end up cutting a couple extra pieces, just a few actually, that I didn't need, which I'll just save it in that sleeve for a different project. Sometimes if I cut out extra die cuts that I don't need, I'll put them back in the scraps with my cardstock. So I have all the colors separated in different job ticket holders. I'll just throw them in the back of that to use on a different project. I try my best not to waste any cardstock, let alone Concord and Ninth. So I just put the ones that I thought that I would use together. That dark blue, the navy blue, is from my stash that I've had in my stash for a long time, so I was happy to use some of that up. And then I'm using my paper piecer and helping me get those die cuts, the cardstock out of the die cuts. I'm using my Anna Griffin Impress die cut machine. And I have these little trays that I got from the Dollar Tree. I just set those in there to keep them out of my way. I pulled out the Leafy Spellbinders 3D embossing die, and I'm cutting down a piece of black Concord and Ninth. I cut it to much larger than I need. I cut it to like 5.5 by 7.5. I'll use a little bit of mist of water and run that through. I did not put an extra shim like normal because that's a 3D embossing folder. I didn't want it super 3D. I just wanted it very light in the background, so I just used one less shim. This is a piece of powder, and I cut that to 5 by 7. I'm going to trim down the cardstock now that it's been embossed, and I do actually trim it a little bit further than this. I cut it to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And now I'm just kind of laying everything out to see what I like, the combination that I like, just kind of moving it around. This is such a large die set. You can use it for a smaller card, but I like that you can also use it for a large 5 by 7. I don't make a ton of 5 by 7 cards, so I like to make them every now and then. Here's where I decided to cut the black down a little bit further. And then I also wanted dimension on the card. So I do add some chipboard, some medium weight chipboard behind the black piece as well. And I used black chipboard. That way if the recipient is looking at the card from the side, they just see black. So I'm using a fine tip bottle. I did not glue the very top of that bloom because I kind of roll it up on the finished card. And here's where I add the chipboard. I added one piece. I liked it so much I added a second piece. These are just from my scrap bin. So again, I like using those up, and I didn't use foam, and you don't see the white foam from the side. Again, I liked it. That's why right here I decided to just go ahead and use another piece that I had in my scrap bin. And for that, I'm using Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. And I'll just give those a minute to dry. The other two cards that I made off screen, I had quite a bit of dimension with them. So for this, I used the black cardstock as dimension, and then my flowers and leaves, I didn't really use much dimension, just a little bit with some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. Those are really low profile dimensionals, so it's just a little bit of dimension. So once I gave that a little bit to dry, I went ahead and glued that onto my card base. I will also add some cardstock on the inside of the card as well. I could have left it with the blue, but I wanted to add a little black border. So I did give those a few minutes, or give that a few minutes to dry. And again, I'm just going to kind of lay it out, see what I like. Pulled out some dimensionals, and these are, like I said, the low profile ones, so it just gives it a little bit of lift, not too much. I like to add a little bit of glue to the center as well, and I'm using some Barely Arts glue in that fine tip bottle that I had mentioned. Hold those down for just a minute, and now I'm just going to tuck in the leaves. I love that die. I can see using that leaf die with lots of other flower dies that I already have in my stash. I also cut out a few of the flowers. Again, I knew I wanted to use 2 big flowers on this as far as those, and then I also used that bloom. But I wasn't sure as far as the little flowers. I don't end up using them on the outside of the card, but I had them and was able to use 2 of them on the inside of the card. I love that little sprig too. That's what I love so much about Concord and Ninth, is all their colors look so good together. So that's the Stardust color. As I mentioned, the darker blue is just from my stash. I think it's the brand is Die Cuts with a View. I got that from Joann's or maybe Michael's a long time ago, so I'm happy to use some of that up. And then I didn't want this leaf to go away, and I thought it would be perfect right down there to add. I cut a little bit of the stem off just to be able to tuck it in there further. And I just kind of set the flowers around, but like I said, I just wasn't liking the look of them. I left them there for a minute or two and decided I'll just set them aside and decide once I'm done with my sentiment and stuff, but I don't end up using them like I mentioned, except for the inside of the card, so I was glad I had them. So this Hello die, I believe, is from Honeybee, and I layered 3 of the black pieces. And I cut out the Stardust and then also silver glitter paper just to kind of see, and I think that looked really good on it, but I really like the silver with it, so I went with the silver cardstock. I'm tapping that off on a post-it note just to get a little of the extra glue off so it doesn't squish out everywhere and make a mess. And once I was happy with that, I just went ahead and glued that straight down onto the flower. Again, I tried the flowers, and here's where I decided it's just too busy. The card's busy, which I'm happy with the amount of busy it is, but those just were a little too much. I pulled out a few pearls. I decided to go with some white pearls. I did pull out some clear dewdrops and some colored pearls as well, but I thought the white ones looked the best. They are more ivory than white. And the ones I'm using are from Wild Orchid Crafts. Again, using the same glue to glue those down. So I cut another 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and you can leave it like this, use a silver or white pen to write in it, but I like the powder to match. I like that powder blue, so I decided to go ahead and put another smaller piece in there. I think that's 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, and I'm using Trinity stamps from their Hello stamp and some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I love to finish off the inside of a card. It says, "I've been thinking about you," and I love that font. That does stay wet for a while, so I was just trying to be careful gluing that down. I did let it dry for a little bit, and then I added the extra flowers that I had already cut out with some silver glitter cardstock to the center of those, and here's where I decided I wanted to tie in that Hello silver as well, so I added 3 of the hearts. I always seem to have those hearts cut out, and I keep them aside for projects that that I think that they would fit well with. So I'll give you another look of all 3 of the cards that I made, and I'm really happy with this color box. I think it just, if you're kind of stuck, it'll kind of give you a color combination to go with. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. And if you have not already subscribed, I hope you would subscribe to my channel. Leave me a thumbs up. That really does help. And let me know which card you like the best. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you have a great day.